And as you know, the Ghana IMF negotiations begin today, and as such, Three Business organized the Three Business Colloquium by Media General, and having with me in studio my colleague Pakwesi Asari, who moderated that event there. Pakwesi, many thanks for your time. Now, just run by us the highlights of the Three Business Colloquium.
Thanks, Imani. I think it was largely a successful colloquium, and it couldn't have been organized at a better time when Ghana is entering into an IMF program. We had earlier, christened the theme for this whole colloquium, inflation. I mean, how to tackle inflation, because it is our respected view here at Three Business that over the years, monetary policies alone have not adequately addressed the issue of inflation. Ghana is witnessing its highest inflation, in the last 10 decades, the highest in the last 10 decades. That's about 27.6%. So we thought we should bring together experts, best brains to come and sort of, bring their own ideas and perspectives to bear on how we can help tackle this issue of inflation, especially at a time when Ghana is entering into an IMF program. And we know that, IMF programs always would come in to try and ensure some stability. And one of the things that we're likely to see is that inflation will go down. But beyond just the IMF program, how do we ensure a sustainable, low inflation? And I think that, in the analysis, it was quite clear that, first of all, you need to diagnose what the problem is. And we know inflation is either from a cost, from a demand pull or a cost push inflation. When it's demand, that's excess aggregate demand. But we have noticed here in Ghana that most of this inflation is from the supply side, so that must be tackled through production. And it is government policy to ensure that, it supports farmers for us to increase production. Because when you look at the inflation basket, a lot of it, is driven by food prices. And what do? We have to increase production and ensure that the cost of production is low for farmers so that it will translate into the price. And so ordinarily, I think it was a good, successful.
All right. Now, you've been engaged with some of the speakers who are really top experts in the financial sector. Now, heading into the IMF negotiations today, who is going to lead the team, taking into consideration that the finance minister's competence has been questioned?
Well, I asked the question to Kojo Nkrumah, who told us how the negotiations is going to go. It's starting today. Let's hear what he said.
Conversation is the sharing of data. The data has its interpretation, and the data will tell us what we qualify for and what we don't qualify for. If Dr. Kwachi is sitting at the table, or if I'm sitting at the table, the interpretation of the legend of that data is what it is. What you qualify for is what you qualify for. If you look at Ghana's quota, for example, how much can Ghana get? It's a calculation between your position now and then your quota. And that is what will determine how much you will get. Is it a 1-year program, 2-year program, 3-year program, 4-year program? There are comparatives around parts of the world. So I don't think that negotiation so much depends on who is sitting at the table, because there are empiricals that we work with. Of course, the people who sit at the table matter. And I think that if you look at the track record of the people who are at the table, at least at the sharing of the data stage, in reference to economic management and how even previous IMF negotiations have taken place, I think we've managed to get good deals out of it. Between 2017 and 2019, when we introduced a number of programs, we're still under an IMF program, but we managed to negotiate what we believed and what the fund agreed with us was in the best interest of the Ghanaian people. Today, we'll have to recalibrate and look at what is in the best interest of the Ghanaian people and make decisions.
Now, talking about making the best decisions with the Ghanaians at heart, again, the finance minister's competence came to play. You spoke to some of the speakers. What did they say about his competence going forward?
True. That was another major issue, because the minority and some sections of the Ghanaian public over the past few days have been calling for the head of the finance minister, especially because of the position he took before we entered into this program. So I asked Kojo Nkrumah that question, but before we even listened to what he said, I'd also asked Dr. Kwachi, who is with the Institute of Economic Affairs, and he was of the position that, look, there's no need, having the finance minister's side, because he thought that would also impugn the credibility or integrity of the Ghanaian team, knowing that we've sacked the finance minister just entering into a program. But let's hear what Kojo had to say about that.
The record of the minister from 2017 to 2019 is clear. Not everybody will agree with that, but that's fine. We're in a democracy. Not everybody is supposed to agree with the view. of one person. There are those who don't share that view. That's okay. His record from 2017 to 2019 speaks for itself. 2021 speaks for itself. His record in previous negotiations speak for themselves. There are things that have changed in the exogenous circle around us, which we explain are a dominant reason. Doc says it's partly the reason. We can split hairs about that. But I do not think that the competencies of the people at the table deny them the ability to do that.
Okay, now we know that the IMF negotiations begin today. What is the look ahead?
Well, so I was talking about an article I read today by the Sri Lankan president is quoted to have saying that they were going to negotiate from the position of bankruptcy because, you know, they really have nothing. Their meat is down to the bone. And so based on the fact that they are bankrupt, it was going to, the negotiations were going to be likely protracted. In the case of Ghana, that doesn't appear to be so. We would have to offer homegrown solutions, of which the IMF would have to sit down with us and sort of negotiate to know if these are the programs that we want to take forward and if indeed those programs are going to be helpful. There are also those who are anticipating that there will be major cuts to some of the flagship programs like free SHS, like school feeding program and all that. The most important thing is how these possible cuts would also reflect on the ordinary Ghanaian, because some of the policies are social intervention programs, you know, that are to help the pro-poor. We don't know what the impact will be. Already we know worker groups are agitating because they want increase in the cost of living allowance, again because of the current circumstance where you have inflation going up but salaries remaining the same. So the fear is that with an IMF program, you know, government, they're going to say, you know, no increase in salaries, freeze unemployment, and all these things have cascading effects.
Finally, before I let you go, what is next for Three Business Colloquium, looking at some of the recommendations that came out of this?
Well, today, like we said, we hold the opinion that monetary policies over the period have not helped, because often, you know, even in America, when inflation is going up, the Fed will hike the policy rates, and the same thing happens here. Inflation going up, the central bank will hike the policy rates, then interest rates go up. But there's a challenge because you find that most of the banks, you know, you check their credit portfolio, and most of them are lending to the central bank in terms of bonds and treasury bills and all that. So the real sector, the drivers of the economy, which is the private sector, are denied access to these funds. So growth is affected generally. The stock market activity is affected because businesses cannot invest in research and in innovation to be able to, you know, pump their production and all that. So all these things, we believe that we need to keep the discussion going. We're going to come up with a lot more of these for us to drive the conversations, to stimulate the discussion. And we believe that in the future, changes will be made. We will produce, we will make inputs to the policy, government policy, and ensure that, you know, something is done about it.
Thank you.